Chapter 42 Love is Understanding. Keen Basenade came on long to visit the Buddha. Unaccompanied by even a guard, he left his carriage and driver at the monastery gate. He was greeted by the Buddha in front of the Buddha hut. After changing formal greeting, the king spoke to the Buddha more frankly. Teacher Gautama, people praise you as the Buddha, one who had attained perfect enlightenment. But I have been asking myself, how could one as young as yourself have attained enlightenment? Even the great master Sukha, Purana Kassapa, Makali Gosaya, Nigana Nataputa, and Sayan Balaptiputa, who are orphaned in years, do not claim to have attained total enlightenment. Not even Bakuha Akayana and Ayita Kasakambali. Do you know of the matter? The Buddha responded, Your Majesty, I have heard of all their matter and have met a number of them. Spiritual realization does not depend on age. More than years do not guarantee the presence of enlightenment. They are something which should never be declared: a young prince, a small snake, a spark of fire, and a young monk. A prince may be young, but he possesses the characteristics and distinction of a king. A small poisonous snake can kill a grown man in an instant. One spark of fire can cause an entire forest or electricity to burn to ash. And a young monk can attain total enlightenment. Your Majesty, a wise person never did than a young prince, a small snake, a spark of fire, or a young monk. King Basenade looked at the Buddha. He was impressed. The Buddha had spoken in a calm and quiet voice, and what he had said was one simple and profound. The king felt he could trust the Buddha. He then asked the question that were burning within him. Teacher Gautama, there are people who say you advise people not to love. They say you have said that the more a person loves, the more he will suffer and despair. I can see some truth in that statement, but I am unable to find peace with it. Without love, life would seem empty or meaning. Please help me to resolve this. The Buddha looked at the king warmly. Your Majesty, your question is a very good one, and many people can benefit from it. There are many kinds of love. We should examine closely the nature of each kind of love. Life had a great need of the presence of love, but not the sort of love that is based on lewd, passion, attachment, discrimination, or prejudice. Majesty, there are another kind of love, surely needed, which consists of loving kindness and compassion, or maitri and karuna. Usually, when people speak of love, they are referring only to the love that exists between parents and children, husbands and wives, family members, or the member of one country or country. Because the nature of such love depends on the concept of me and mine, it remains intact in entanglement and discrimination. People want only to love their parents, both children, grandchildren, their already and countrymen. Because they are caught in attachment, they worry about accidents that could befall their loved one even before such thing actually take place. When such accidents do occur, they suffer deeply. Love that is based on determination, prejudice. People become indifferent or even haughty to those outside their outer circle of love. Attachment and determination are sort of suffering for ourselves and others. Majesty, the love for which all beings truly hunger in loving kindness and compassion. Maitri is the love that has the capacity to bring happiness to others. Karuna is the love which has the capacity to remove another suffering. Maitri and Karuna do not demand anything in return. Loving kindness and compassion are not limited to one parent, spouse, children, relative, get to member and countrymen. They tend to all people and all beings. In Maitri and Karuna, there is no discrimination, no mine or not mine. And because there is no discrimination, there is no attachment. Maitri and Karuna bring happiness and ease suffering. They do not cause suffering and despair. Without them, life would be empty of meaning, as you said. With loving kindness and compassion, life filled with peace, joy, and contentment. Majesty, you are the ruler of an entire country. All your people would benefit by your practice of loving kindness and compassion. The king bent his head in thought. He looked up and at the bird. I have a family to care for and a country to rule. If I don't love my own family and people, how can I care for them? Please help clarify it for me. Naturally, you should love your own family and people, but your love can also extend beyond your own family and people. You love and care for the prince and princess, but that doesn't prevent you from loving and caring for the other young people in the kingdom. If you can love all the young people, your now limited love will become an all-embracing love, and all the young people of the kingdom will be as your children. That is what it means by having a heart of compassion. It is not just some idea. It is something which can actually be realized, especially by someone like you who has so many means at his disposal. But what about the young people of other kingdoms? Nothing prevents you from loving the young people of other kingdoms as your son and your daughter, even though they do not do under your rule. Just because you love one people is no reason not to love the people of other kingdoms. But how can I show my love for them when they are not under my jurisdiction? The Buddha looked at the king. The prosperity and security of one nation should not depend on the poverty and insecurity of other nations. Marriage, lasting peace, and prosperity are only possible when nations join together in a common commitment to seek the welfare of all. If you truly want Kusala to enjoy peace and to prevent the young men of your kingdom from losing their lives on the battlefield, you must help all the kingdom fight peace. Foreign and economic policy must follow the way of compassion for true peace to be possible. At the same time, as you love and care for your own kingdom, you can love and care the other kingdoms such as Magadha, Kashi, Vidala, Sakya, and Korea. Mariti, last year I visited of my family in the kingdom of Sakya. I rested several days in Ananakutila at the foot of the Himalaya. There I spent much time reflecting on a politics based on non-violence. I saw that nation can enjoy peace and security without having to resort to violent measures such as imprisonment and execution. I spoke of this thing with my father, King Sihodukana. Now I take this opportunity to say this same idea with you. A ruler who knows his compassion does not need to depend on violent means. The Kenneth Land, wondrous, truly wondrous. Your work are most inspiring. You truly are the enlightened one. I promise to reflect on all you have said today. I will penetrate your work which contains so much wisdom. But for now, please allow me to add one more simple question. Ordinary love the content element of determination, desire, and attachment. According to you, that kind of love creates worry, suffering, and despair. How can love without desire and attachment? How can I avoid reacting worry and suffering the love I hold for my own children? The Buddha replied, we need to look at the nature of our love. Our love should bring peace and happiness to the one we love. If our love is based on the selfish desire to possess others, we will not be able to bring them peace and happiness. On the contrary, our love would make them feel trapped should a love is no more than a prison. If the person we love are unable to be happy because of our love, they will find a way to free themselves. They will not accept the prison of our love. Gradually, the love between us will turn to anger and hate. Majesty, did you hear of the tragedy that took place 10 days ago in safety because of selfish love? A mother felt she had been abandoned by her son when he fell in love in marriage. Rather than telling Ed if she had gained a doctor, she only felt that she had lost her son and she felt betrayed by him. Because of that, her love turned to hate and she would poison the young because of food, killing them both. Majesty, according to the way of enlightenment, love cannot exist without understanding. Love is understanding. If you cannot understand, you cannot love. Husbands and wives who do not understand each other cannot love each other. Brothers and sisters who do not understand each other cannot love others. Parents and children who do not understand each other cannot love each other. If you want your loved one to be happy, you must learn to understand their suffering and their aspiration. When you understand, you will know how to relieve their suffering and how to help them fulfill their aspiration. That is true love. If you only want your loved one to follow your own idea and you remain ignorant of their needs, it is not truly love. It is only a desire to protect another and attempt to fulfill your own needs, which cannot be fulfilled that way. Marathi, the people of Kausala has suffering and aspiration. If you can understand the suffering and aspiration, you will be able to truly love them. Other officials in your count has suffering and aspiration, understanding those suffering and aspiration, and you will know how to bring them happiness. Tend to that, they will remain loyal to you all the line. The queen, prince, and princess hand out suffering and aspiration. If you can understand the suffering and aspiration, you will be able to bring them happiness. When every person enjoy happiness, be enjoy yourself will know happiness, be enjoy. That is the meaning of love according to the way of awakening. King Basinadi was deeply moved. No other spiritual teacher of Brahmana private had even opened the door to his heart and allowed him to understand him so deeply. The presence of the teacher, he talked to him, say words of wonder, of great value to his country. He wanted to be a Buddha student. After a moment of silence, he looked up at the Buddha and said, I thank you for sitting so much light on the matter for me. But there remains one thing that still bothers me. You said that love by your desire and attachment creates suffering and despair, while love by and compassion bring only peace and happiness. But why I see that love by also the way of compassion is not selfish or self-suffering. It still can bring pain and suffering. I love my people. When they suffer from some natural disaster like a typhoon or flu, I suffer too. I am sure if it is the same for you, surely you suffer when you see someone who sick or dying. Your question is very good. Tend to this question, you will be able to understand more deeply the nature of compassion. First of all, you should know that the suffering caused by love based on desire and attachment is 1,000 times greater than the suffering that results from compassion. It is necessary to distinguish between the two kinds of suffering, one which is entirely useless and serve only to disturb our mind and body, and the other with no reason, caring, and responsibility. Love based on compassion can provide the energy needed to respond to the suffering of others. Love based on attachment can decide only create anxiety and more suffering. Compassion provides fuel for the more helpful action and service. Ranking. Compassion is more necessary. Pain that results from compassion can be a helpful pain. If you cannot feel another pain, you are not truly human. Compassion is the fruit of understanding. Practicing the way of awareness is to realize the true fact of life. That true fact is impermanent. Everything is impermanent and without a separate self. Everything must one day pass away. One day your body will pass away. When a person sees into the impermanent nature of all things, his way of looking becomes calm and serene. The presence of impermanence does not disturb his heart and mind, and thus the feeling of pain that results from compassion do not carry the bitter and heavy nature that other kind of suffering do. On the contrary, compassion gives a person greater strength. Today, you have some of the basic techniques of the way of liberation. On another day, I would like to share more of the teaching with you. King Basinadi's heart was filled with gratitude. He stood up and bowed to the Buddha. He knew that one day soon he would act to be accepted as a lay discipline of the Buddha. He knew that Queen Malika, Princess and Princess Valley already feel a special bond with the Buddha. He wanted the Indian family to receive the free refuge together. He knew that his younger sister, Kausala Devi, and her husband, Kim Bibisadra, had already received them. That evening, Queen Malika and Princess Vati noted a marked difference in the king. He seemed unusually calm and content. They knew that it was a result of his encountering with the Buddha. They wanted very much to add a thing about his meeting with the Buddha, but they knew that they should wait and let the king tell them about his own time. Chapter 43. Everyone Tia Sati. King Basanadi visit to Retavana sister in red among the people and add to the statue of the Buddha Sangha. Ballet official noted how King Basanadi did not meet a single weekly Dharma talk and many of them began to join him. Some of these saw our admiration for the Buddha teaching, while others went only in hope of pleasing the king. The number of intellectual and young people visiting Jetavana surmounted daily during the 3 months of retreat. Xong chưa? Okay. The number of intellectual and young people visiting Jetavana surmounted daily during the 3 month retreat. More than 150 young men were ordained by Sariputta. Religious leaders of the sect that had long enjoyed the king by nature began to feel written, and some of them began to regard Jetavana monastery with less than sympathetic eyes. The retreat season concluded with a length service at which the king offered new robe to every bhikkhu and distributed food and another basic necessity to poor family. At the ceremony, the king and his family formally took the 3 refugees. After the retreat, the Buddha and another bhikkhu traveled to neighboring regions in order to treat the Dharma to more and more people. One day, as the Buddha and bhikkhu were begging in a village near the bank of the Ganga, the Buddha stopped a man carrying the night shawl. The man wore an untakeable name Sunita. Sunita had heard about the Buddha and bhikkhu, but this was the first time he had even seen them. He was alarmed, knowing how dirty his clothes were and how far he smelled from carrying his night shawl. He quickly moved up the bed and made his way down to the river. But the Buddha was determined to set away with the Sunita. When Sunita rose from the bed, the Buddha did the same, understanding the Buddha intent, Sariputta and Megaya. The Buddha intended at the time follow him. The row of other bhikkhus came to a half and they quietly watched. Sunita was badly stricken. He hardly put the bucket of night shawl down and looked for a place to hide. Above him stood the bhikkhu in the saffron robe, way before he robbed the Buddha and 2 other bhikkhus. Not knowing what else to do, Sunita walked up to his knee in water and stood with heart-bound joy. Curious villagers came out the home and lied to the shore to what was happening. Sunita had fear of the bed because he was afraid he would follow the bhikkhu. He could not have yet the bhikkhu would follow him. Sunita knew that the Sangha included many men from North Pukata. He was sure that polluting a bhikkhu was an unforgivable act. He hoped the Buddha and bhikkhu would leave him and return to the road, but the Buddha did not leave. He walked right up to the water edge and said, "My friend, please come closer so he might touch." Sunita, his bomb still rotated long. "I don't dare." "Why not?" asked the Buddha. "I am untouchable. I don't want to bother you and your monk." The Buddha replied, "On our path, we no longer distinguish between castes. You are a human being like the rest of earth. We are not afraid we will be polluted. Only greed, hate, and delusion can pollute us. A person as pleasant as yourself brings us nothing but heavenly." "What's your name?" "Lord, my name is Sunita." Sunita protested, "Lord, I do not dare come closer. I am untouchable." "Sunita, would you like to become a bhikkhu like the rest of us?" "I couldn't." "Why not?" "I am untouchable." "Sunita, I have already explained that on our path there are no cattle. In the way of awakening, cattle no longer exist. It is like the Ganga, Yamuna, and Kavati, Saprapu, Mahe, and Rahoni rivers. When they empty into the sea, they no longer retain their separate identity. A person who leave home to follow the way leave cattle behind, whether he was born a Bagman, Katita, Vata, Sudha, untouchable. Sunita, if you like, you can become bhikkhu like the rest of us." Sunita could hardly believe his ear. He placed his John balm before his forehead and said, "No one had ever spoken so kindly to me before. This is the happiest day of my life. If you accepted me as your discipline, I want to devote all my being to practice your teaching." The Buddha handed his bowl to Megillah and reaching his hand towards our Sunita. He said, "Sariputta, help me pay Sunita. We will ordain him a bhikkhu right here on the bank of the river." Venerable Sariputta smiled. He placed his arm bow on the ground and came forward to assist the Buddha. Sunita felt quiet and uncomfortable as Sariputta and the Buddha stroked him clean, but he didn't dare protest. The Buddha asked Megillah to roll up and add Ananda from each robe. After Sunita was ordained, the Buddha assigned him to Sariputta's care. Sariputta led him back to Retavana while the Buddha and the rest for the bhikkhu calmly continued their begging. The local people had witnessed all the display, knew with the spread that the Buddha had accepted unattackable into the Sangha. This cow Führer among higher cattle in the capital, never the history of Cow Kosala had unattackable been accepted into a spiritual community. Many condemned the Buddha for violating sacred tradition. Others went so far as to suggest that the Buddha were plotting to overthrow the existing order and wreak havoc in the country. The echo of all the accusations reached the monastery ruler Lajai discipline as well as from because who had heard people saying Shakti in the city. Senior discipline Sadibucha, Mahakasaba, Mahamogakalana, and Anuruddha meet to decode the people's reaction with the Buddha. The Buddha said, accepting untouchable into the Sangha was so simply a question of time. Our way of equality, we do not recognize cattle. Though we may encounter difficulty of Sunita ordination now, we will have opened the door for the first time in history that future generation will turn or fall. We must have courage. Morgalina said, we do not lack courage or endurance, but how can we help reduce the hostility of public opinion to make it easier for the bhikkhu to practice? Sariputra said, the important thing is to remain routine of our practice, and we strive to assist Sunita and make him rocket on the back. His success will be the strongest argument in our favor. We can also seek way to explain our belief in equality to the people. What do you think, Master? The Buddha placed his hand on Sariputra's shoulder. You have just spoken my talk, he said. Before long, the approval was sounded out. The nation reached the air of keen vicinity. A group of religious leaders requested a private audience with him and expressed their grave concern over the matter. They convinced argument determined the king, and although he was devout following the Buddha, promised a leader that he would look into the matter. Some day later, he paid a visit to the Taverna. He climbed down from his carriage and walked into the monastery ground alone. Bhikkhu bade him on the bed beneath the cool shade of the tree. The king followed the bed and led to the Buddha hut. He put to eat bhikkhu he bade at while the serene and compact manner of the bhikkhu reinforced his faith in the Buddha. Halfway to the hut, he encountered a bhikkhu sitting on a large rock beneath a raised by tree, teaching a small group of bhikkhu and a light discipline. It was more apparent inside. The bhikkhu followed the teaching looked less than 40 years old, yet his face radiated, beating wisdom. He listened, was clearly absorbed by what he had to say. The king bowed to listen and was moved by what he heard. But suddenly he remembered the purpose of his visit and he continued on his way. He hoped to return later to listen to the bhikkhu teaching. The Buddha welcomed the king outside his hut, inviting him to sit on a bamboo chair. After they chant formal greeting, the king asked the Buddha who heard the bhikkhu sitting on the rock was. The Buddha smiled and answered that the bhikkhu Sunita, he was one untouchable who carried 9 swords. What do you think of his teaching? The king felt embarrassed. The bhikkhu was with so radiant, appearing was none other than the 9 sword carrier Sunita. He would never have guessed such a word was possible before he knew how to respond. The Buddha said bhikkhu Sunita had devoted himself wholeheartedly to his practice from the day of his ordination. He a man of great sincerity, intelligence, and resolve. Though he was then only 3 months ago, he had already earned a reputation for great virtue and purity of heart. Would you like to meet him and make an offering to the more worthy bhikkhu? The king replied with frankness, I will indeed like to meet bhikkhu Sunita and make an offer to him. Master, your teaching is deep and wondrous. I have never met any other spiritual teacher with so open and a heart and a mind. I do not think there are a person anymore of land that do not benefit from the blessing of your understanding. I must tell you that I came here today with the intention of asking you how could you accept unattainable into your Sangha, but I have seen, heard, and understood why. I no longer today ask such a question. Instead, allow me to prostrate myself before you. The king stood up, intending to prostrate himself, but the Buddha stood up as well and took the king's hand. He had the king to be seated again. When they were both seated, the Buddha looked at the king and said, Majesty, in the way of liberation, there are no cattle. To the eye of a enlightened person, all the people are equal. Every person looks erect. Every person feels anxiety. We are all human beings. We must find a way for all people to be able to realize their full dignity and potential. That is why I welcome Sultan to the Sangha of Bhikkhu. The King John hit bomb. I understand now. I also know that the path you had chosen will be filled with obstacle and difficulty. But I know you possess the strength and courage needed to overcome or such obstacle. For me, our back, I will do everything in my power to support the true teaching. The king took his leave of the Buddha and returned to the pine tree in hope of listening to Bhikkhu Sultan's teaching. But Bhikkhu Sultan, his listener, had disappeared. The king saw no more than a few bhikkhus walking slowly and mindfully down the path. Chapter 22. Turning the wheel of the darkness. As you were practicing the art to rewind the deer back, one day after his city meditation, he noticed a monk approaching from all the way up in the distance. As the stranger came closer, he realized was no other than Siddhartha, and he quickly told his four friends. But he said, Siddhartha pounded the bed halfway, he ate rice, ran meal, and visited with the village children. He really let us down. I said we should even read him, so the five friends agreed not to meet Siddhartha by the gate to the park. They also decided not to stand and read him if he should enter the deer park by himself, but why Julia to play were entirely different. When Siddhartha entered the gate, the five assistant companions were so impressed by his radiant bearing that they all stood up at once. Siddhartha seemed to be surrounded by an aura of light. Each step he took revealed a rare spiritual strength. His penetrating gaze undermined their intention to snub him. Colonel ran up to him and took his begging bowl. My hand had filled quite so that Siddhartha could grant his hand and feet. But the Buddha was stool to him to sit on, wrapped a flower fan of beer palm left, and began to fan him as he stood to one side, not knowing what to do. After Siddhartha washed his hand and feet, as he realized he could fill a bowl with cold water and offer it to him. The five friends sat in a circle around Siddhartha, who looked kindly at them and said, My brother, I have found a way and I will show it to you. As ye had believed and have doubted Siddhartha walked, perhaps the other feel the same, for no one spoke for a long moment. Then Konina blew now with you abandoned the bed halfway, you had right, ran meal and spent time with the village children. How can you have found the bed to liberation? So they looked into the colonel eye and asked, Friend colonel, you had known me a long time. During the time had I even lied to you? Chang chúa. Okay, bye bye, see you later. Thank you for listening to me.